All right, everybody. Simmer down. Look how many people are here today. It's like the fullest I've ever seen this classroom. Hey, sit down. You guys thought I wasn't serious. All right, so today we're going to do midterm review. Like I said, on Piazza, I don't really have a plan for today's class. I'll tell you a little bit about the exam. I'll tell you how we're going to do the exam. And then you guys are welcome to ask questions. How many people have looked at one of the practice exams, the previous exams on the, okay, so you guys know exactly what's coming. All right, so let me get through the boring stuff. Welcome back. Hope everybody had a great break. How many people did not do any operating system programming over break? All right, good. You guys are in trouble. So assignment 2, midterm is Wednesday, right? Assignment 2 is due 2 weeks from today. So there are 2 weeks left until the assignment due date. All right, so let me talk through how the midterm is going to work. The midterm is on Wednesday. It's in this room. Many of you have the class before this. Bring your UBID card. If you don't have it, you won't take an exam. If you don't have it, you won't take an exam. You won't take a makeup exam. You will get a 0. So if you don't have a UBID card for some reason, you have until Wednesday to acquire one. Right? You should all have one. Please bring your ID with you. You need this to take the exam. I can't emphasize this enough. Right? I just did. Right? So that's the rule. How many people don't have a UBID for some reason? I see some people back there who look like they don't have one. Okay, could you get one? So I'm glad I told you today because the ID card office is open tomorrow. So about an hour before the exam, we'll distribute a seating chart. The seating chart will be on the door. When you come into the room, you will find your exam at your seat. Your exam has your name already on it and your UBID number already on it, right? If you need a left-handed desk, a couple of people have asked. We can accommodate that. Please email us by tonight. We're going to print the exams tomorrow. All right. I've already got a few requests, but we will be happy to seat you in a left-handed desk. You guys will start outside. People who are in this room before, I just talked to Andrew. He's going to try to end a little bit early on Wednesday. Please, you're going to have to leave, right? We need the exam room. We need this room clear before we can start putting the exams on desks. If you have the class before this one and you're hanging out in here, all you're doing is slowing down our process of preparing the exam room, which means that we will start later than we want to, which means you will have less time to do the exam. So if you are in 396, is that it? Please scurry out as fast as you can. Feel free to leave your stuff in here if you want to. Right, so your exam will be at your seat. It's your exam. If you sit in a different seat, then you're taking someone else's exam. You probably don't want to do that. Maybe you do want to do that, right? But if you do want to do that, then you probably want someone else to take your exam, which may or may not happen. Probably won't happen, right? And leave, as we did the last time, everything except your UBID and a pen or pencil, pen preferably, please leave at the back of the room. If you sit down with those materials, you're going to be thrown out of the exam, all right? So you guys have to leave that stuff in the back. This time you can't bring it to your seat because the exams will be there, all right? We're going to take the exam again. When you return your exam, we're going to check to make sure your UBID number matches your face, matches your exam, right? To make sure that you took the exam and not some other random person. I wish I didn't have to do this stuff, but I hear these stories, these crazy stories, right? Okay. Unfortunately, there's too many of you to get into this room with alternate seating, but we are going to print alternate colored exams, which will be different. So you and your neighbor will have different exams. They'll be different colors, right? We'll keep it like pastel tones, so it's not like too jarring. Like I thought about printing them in yellow or something. And it's like, oh man, everyone who got a yellow exam does worse than everyone who gets a white exam. So yeah, it'll be like something soothing, like a light blue. All right, so if you want to get kicked out of tomorrow's exam, here's what to do, right? The one thing is have something at your seat other than a pen or your UBID card. You'll be gone, right? I have thrown people out of exams before. Yeah?
What about a water bottle?
Water bottle. I think that's okay, right? Glasses, probably also okay, as long as the water bottle doesn't have like very fine print writing around the outside of it, right? Yeah. Maybe we should start distributing water during the exam. Okay. If you talk during the exam when the exam is in progress, I don't care what you're talking about. If you're not talking to me or one of my TAs, you're going to be thrown out. All right? If we see two exams of the same color next to each other, we know exactly who swapped exams. The two of you guys will both be asked to leave at the same time. Right? So this is nice. Like that. We can remove two people for the price of one. If you try to turn in an exam that's not your exam, that's at that point I guess you won't be ejected. We'll just throw your exam away, right? So whoever you were trying to take the exam for won't have taken one. All right, any questions about this? Yeah, Mac. Yeah. You can put your bags anywhere along the outside of the room. These hallways are good spots for your bags. I think actually probably what we'll do is let you guys sort of queue up while we're preparing the room in these sort of side entryways. So if you guys just want to throw bags in there or whatever, but you need to sort of stay out of the main seating area while we're putting exams on desks. Yeah. I don't want people to use pencil. Just use a pen. But you can use a pencil if you're... Cross it out. Write something else, right? I really prefer pen, right? After we just I don't think that's where you were going with this, but just in case you have other motives for using a pencil, when we get the exams, we scan all of them before we grade them, so we know exactly what you wrote on the exam. So we will hand back your exams, and if you come to us and say, I didn't get any credit for this, we will go to the scan to make sure that you didn't make alterations afterwards. But we'll provide you plenty of extra space if you want to use a pen. Right? You will not run out of space on the exam. Any other questions about procedures? All right. So the format you guys have already seen if you've seen the practice exams. There's 10 multiple choice questions. These are fast. They should be simple. There's only one that's hard, and that's the did you come to class every time question. There are 6 short answer questions. Each one is worth 5 points. You are welcome to answer as many as you want, and we will give you credit for the best 4 that you answer. And then there are 2 medium answer questions, or long. I guess they're long because there's no long, right? So that are worth 20 points each. If you write both of them for some reason, we'll just the TAs are lazy, right? So they'll just choose the one that looks shorter or more wrong, right? And grade that one. We're not going to grade both long answers. You shouldn't write both long answers. They'll take you too much time, right? The point values are intended to give you an idea of how many minutes to spend on each question. Certainly, if you blaze through the beginning ones and get to the long answer and have more time, that's great. We will try to give you 50 minutes to do the exam from 2 o'clock to 2:50, but it depends on how quickly we can clear the room beforehand and get the exams handed out. All right, so I tried to go through the stuff that we've covered. Again, I don't have like I think this is the last slide I have. Yep. We talked about processes, we talked about the system call interface, and then we really made it all the way through 2 units with the exception of swapping. So there's no swapping questions about memory management. We haven't talked about that yet. There's also no questions on page replacement algorithms either. This is stuff that we haven't covered. It's on the exam, kind of duh. But it's to some degree a synopsis of what is considered fair game. All right. At this point, does anyone have any questions about? I'll just go over questions from previous exams. I don't have any other slides. Anyone have any questions? Adam.
Can we expect like hardcore implementation questions?
Okay. How many people have looked at the exams on the practice exams and the previous exams online? How many hardcore implementation questions are there? 0. No, there will be no, there are no questions. From time to time on these exams, we will ask you things that will sort of draw on your knowledge of Sys 161, but we're never going to ask you to write code or ask you questions specifically about OS 161 or anything like that, right? So there will not be, what's that?
There was a code reading question on how to pick out where code was incorrect.
Yeah, so there have been code reading questions, right? But it's usually like, look at this little code snippet, tell us what's wrong with it, tell us some way to fix it, right? That kind of question may appear this year, but yeah, there are no questions on the exam that will require you to write code. Yeah, good question. Any other questions?
Is the file object in charge of what file permissions there are, or is that the file handle's job?
Can anyone answer Natasha's question? Where are the permissions stored for the file? In the file handle, right? Because that's a per process attribute, right? the VFS layer or whatever the underlying file system layer is can certainly support multiple processes or even the same process having the same file open with different permissions, right? I can open a file and get one file descriptor to read and one file descriptor to write. I don't know why I would do that, but I could do that. And actually, there's certain cases in which that might make sense from a programming perspective. You guys want to walk through an exam? I mean, I'm just filling time, so feel free to ask questions. So which one did I pull up this time? Oh, here we go. The last year's midterm. It's a good year, 2013. All right, so let's talk through, I mean, the solutions for this one are up. Why don't we look at some of the long answer questions together? So there were 2 long answer questions last year. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit here to make this a little bit more readable. Maybe not. Oh. Let's see. Zoom, fit, width. That's better, OK. So let's look at the first question. So these are the long, I mean, I try to write, my goal in writing midterms and exams is 2 things. One is I don't want them to be too hard, right? The hard part of this class is the programming assignments. They're hard enough, as you guys are finding out. So I try to make the exams reasonable, right? And we will be reasonable with the grading. I also try to make them as conceptual as possible, right? This gets harder every year because I have more questions that are out there, but I don't like asking stupid sort of plug and chug hex translation type questions, right? I like to ask questions about sort of design principles. I like to ask questions about approaching new problems. So here's an example, right? So last year we had this question. I don't know what this little dialogue thing is doing in there. Go away. Oh, sorry. It's asking me to comment. Help. Go away. It's super irritating. How about I get rid of you? Sweet. All right. So on wait time prediction, right? So when we discuss schedulers, and unfortunately I wasn't discussing schedulers this year, but I discussed them last year, and you guys saw that. One of the things we were interested in is the wait time, right? So when a thread blocks for some reason, we were curious. One of the things we might be able to use as part of our scheduling algorithm would be, when is the thread going to be ready to run again, right? And this is not typically something that the scheduler knows, right? All it knows is that the thread went onto a wait queue, right? So this question asked 2 things. First of all, it said, what are some approaches, if you were asked to implement something that was able to predict the wait time of a particular thread when it hit the waiting queue, what are some cases in which you might be able to do that with a certain degree of accuracy, and why? Right? So who can think of a wait that might be somewhat predictable? Yeah, Doug.
Trying to read from the disk.
OK, yeah, so disk reads to some degree. What would I need to know about the disk read to do a wait prediction? What would be helpful? Yeah, Adam.
If there's anything in the buffer.
Yeah, okay, so that's a good point. We haven't got that far yet. So the question wouldn't have asked this. But yeah, if it hits a cache somewhere, it's going to impact the speed. But what else?
You know the size of the file is what read?
OK, the size of the file. What specifically could I know? I could know more than that. I could certainly know the size of the file, but I could know something else. Yeah. Yeah, the size of the operation, right? I mean, that's something that's encoded directly in the read or write, right? So I don't read an arbitrary number of bytes. I know exactly how many bytes the process has to read, and I could use that information probably with some information about the speed of the I/O. I might be able to model it over time, use the past to predict the future, something like that, right? What's a case where you would expect the weights to be highly unpredictable? Yeah, user input's one. What else? Yeah, any sort of certain types of network operations, right? Other types of network operations I might be able to do some prediction on, right? But like waiting for a connection, right? Opening a socket that's going to receive incoming connections and then waiting for someone to actually connect to it. I have no idea. I mean, that's essentially another form of user interaction, right? I'm waiting for some user on the end of some web browser to go to my web page and to load it up, right? So that could be highly unpredictable. Yeah, did you have another answer? OK. OK, so the next thing is, how would you incorporate this information into an actual scheduling algorithm? So let's say I have some algorithm that can generate reasonably accurate predictions of wait times in certain cases. What sort of what sort of things might I be able to use that information to do or to improve on some of the existing scheduling algorithms that we had discussed? Yeah, Doug.
Schedule your threads so that as one reads, another will start that will block or expire by the time the other thread is ready to go back on the running queue.
Yeah, I guess I could try to do some interleaving of operations, right? Try to figure out sort of what particular device is this busy, is this thread making busy, and try to do that. I'm thinking of something even simpler, just using the time, yeah.
We can modify the scheduling column for every.
Okay, and what's one thing I could accomplish that might be a good property of scheduling that I could do by using this? Yeah. Okay. Be more specific.
You could reduce wait time.
How?
We know when the process is going to return from the operation. So based on that, we can accommodate more processes.
Is that just well, you started off good, and then we got to accommodate more processes, and the answer started to fall apart. Yeah.
Schedule the shortest thread first.
Shortest thread first. Okay, yeah. So that's a great point. One of the algorithms that you heard about was the shortest thread first algorithm, right? What property does that algorithm end up optimizing for? The total wait time, right? That's the way to get if I can front load all of my short tasks, right? Then that produces the total aggregate waiting time for the entire set of tasks, because the long running stuff gets pushed to the back. Right? So there's a user sitting there with their eyeballs on the screen. They get all the things they're going to notice up there first, and then the stuff that's running in the background, hopefully, maybe, right, might take a longer, or the stuff that's going to take longer anyway, right? I can push to the back. So yeah, I can actually implement shortest time waiting time first, right? Which was not a scheduler that we, when we talked about it initially, we thought we'd be able to implement, right? Because we didn't know how long the threads were going to wait, right? What else could I do? Yeah. Yeah, I think there was part of the answer is just shortest waiting time first, right? And identifying that algorithm. Let's see what I actually wrote as an answer last year. That's another way to answer these questions. Let's see here. Don't save. Let's see. That was the primary exam. Uh-oh. Okay. So let's see here. What did we actually write for this? We said, right. So I think the other. Sorry, let me try to zoom this sucker in again. The other option was to essentially use this predicted waiting time to figure out when to run the schedule, right? So if I know the next, let's say that all the threads are sleeping, right? And I'm running some guy who's running for a while, right? Remember, every time I run the scheduler, I have to trap into the kernel. I might not have any work to do, right? If I know exactly when the next thread's going to be ready to run, I can set a timer so that the scheduler fires just when that thread's ready, right? And then I can make a new scheduling decision depending on what's running in the background, right? So that was another part of the answer, right? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions about this? Yeah. Maybe. That was like 5 minutes ago. What were you saying?
I was saying that you could like interweave processes so that as one leaves, you pull the next one and then time it so that when the other one comes back, that one is done.
Yeah, that was what Doug was saying. Good answer. I'm glad I could talk myself into liking your answer eventually. All right. But this is the type of question I would ask. Again, I want to let you guys ask questions. Do you guys have any questions from the exam you guys want me to go over? Yeah.
2012's table examples.
Oh, 2012's table, the VM mapping one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a classic. Well, I could do 2013s too. I think 2013 had one, but we'll do 2012s. Hold on. There we go. The primary or the alternate? Was it the primary exam? Probably was.
Yeah.
All right. Why does this thing not ever want to do this? Okay. So the table, no, this one didn't, the alternate, okay. Yes. As I've said many times, this format of question is a favorite of exam writers everywhere. Hey, where'd it go? Are you sure it was 2012? Where is it? No, I think it was 2013.
In 2012, there was a TLB.
For, on the primary?
Yeah, question 2 on the short answer.
Oh, on the short answer. Really? Oh, right. Why am I not seeing this? Oh, there we go. Yeah, sorry. It was the first one. I missed it. All right. All right, here we go. That's a good one to look at. Okay, so what this question gives you, the information it provides you is, let me see if I can zoom this in a little bit more. The TLB at the present moment and the page table for this particular process, and it asks you to describe what happens when the following instructions that reference virtual memory are executed by this process. Right? So the first one, and as any examples like this on Wednesday's exam will also do, this one uses base 10 arithmetic because I'm a kind and gentle person. So everything is a little bit easier to split up. I just want to make sure the camera's on. Guru's not here today. Ah, sweet. All right. Okay, so the first one, a load from memory address 2378. What will happen? Well, first of all, what virtual page does this correspond to? With 1,000 byte pages. This is page 2, right? All right, what do I do now? What's the next step in answering one of these questions? Yeah?
Check the TLB for virtual page number 2.
Okay, and does the TLB know anything about virtual page number 2? No, that was a question. Does it? Yes, it does at this particular moment. And what does it know about it? There's all this muttering. What does it know about it? Yeah. No. Yeah.
I mean, what software is stored at memory in 120, the address?
All right, so this virtual page number maps to physical page number 120. What else does the TLB know about this particular address? It can be read from. All right? So what does this instruction, what's the result of this instruction? Store, oh, load, right, yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, so this will just return whatever is stored at what memory address? One memory address, physical memory, 120,378. Does that make sense to everybody? Oh, where'd I get this? Okay. So how did I arrive at the second number? What's the way on this particular machine to translate between virtual addresses and physical addresses?
You just replace your virtual page number with your physical page number and you leave the offset the same.
Right, so what's the offset here? 378, right? My physical page number is 120. The physical pages are 1,000 bytes. So that corresponds to offset 378 into physical page 120. So it's address 120,000 plus 378. Make sense? Sweet. Let's do another one. Maybe not so slowly. 2. Store to address 98,733. Is this in the TLB? And what physical page is it mapped to? 119. And what is the result of this instruction? This instruction generates an exception. Why? Because it's marked as read-only. Right? What could potentially happen at this point? So it's not the end of this. Remember, the question asks, what is the result of this instruction? So now I have generated a TLB exception. The kernel is running. What's the next thing that's going to happen? It's going to look in this process's page table. Doug is right. It's going to look and see if there's an entry for this page. Is there? What does that entry say? It's marked as read and write. So what is going to happen at this point? Can this instruction complete? Yeah, so what does the kernel need to tell the TLB? That this address can be written to, right? Can anyone, so here's sort of a bonus point question, although there wasn't a bonus point question. Why would I load this entry into the TLB like this in the first place? Mac?
If you never end up writing to it, you might be able to save time.
I wish that was true. It's like one extra bit, yeah.
Maybe other processes aren't allowed to write to it?
No. I mean, it might be true in another case, but that's not what I'm thinking about. Why would I load it? Let's say this process is private to this page. Why would I load it this way? It means that, so first of all, what does this mean, right? The fact that this entry is in the TLB at all, what does it mean has already happened? Before 0, -1, -2, whatever. There's already a read from this. That's how it got into the TLB in the first place, right? But why, when the kernel loaded it the first time, did it load it as read, a read-only page? Oh, okay, that's interesting. No, but that could have happened. What has this mapping allowed me to identify? Yeah?
The kernel wants to know when the write happens.
Yeah, so it's possible that there are pages in my address space that aren't often or never read from, even though they're allowed to be read from. So in this case, now the price of this extra information is that I've generated another exception. But what's happened is that loading this mapping this way has allowed the kernel to identify when a write occurred to this page, right? Why? If a write occurs to a page, what's fundamentally different between a read and a write to a page that the kernel might care about? The write changes the contents, right? Potentially changes the contents. I mean, maybe they don't, but who cares? We have to assume they do, right? In most cases, they will. So the write changes the contents, the read doesn't, right? And when we start talking about page replacement on Friday, this will be significant, right? This is something that the kernel might like to know about the page, right? All right, let's do one more for fun, quickly. Well, let's see. I don't want to do that one. We'll do this one. What about number 4? Load from address 143. What happens? Does the TLB know about this address? Does the kernel have this address in the page table? Yes. What is what's the location of this address? It's in memory. What's the address? Whoa. What's the address? Yeah, it's 12. And so what this will mean is that this entry will be loaded into the TLB so that the instruction can complete. And what will happen is that I'll get a load from physical address 120,000, no, 12,143. All right, any questions on this? Yeah, Adam. What does PTE stand for? Page table entry, right? This is a page table, and every entry corresponds to, yeah, I mean, if you wrote it out, it would kind of look stupid, but I like to use the acronym. Every entry in the page table corresponds to a page table entry. Yeah?
Just to clarify, so when you load something from the page table, like if you're loading it as
That's a good question. I mean, that would have been a fair answer. I don't think anybody did that, right? But what he's asking is down here. So the question was, if I had noticed already that the kernel had loaded an address that was read-write in the page table entry, read-only in the TLB in response to a read, could I do the same thing for this load? Sure. We would have accepted that answer. But again, I don't think anyone was that clever, actually, in 2012. People were dumber back then, even me. All right, any other questions about this example? Yeah, Matt.
What if you try and write for like storing and have the permissions, or just cause the process to fail?
Yeah, what happens if I try to read or write from an address that just wasn't anywhere? I mean, isn't there one of these? Let's see. Yeah, what about this guy? 36,788. What happens? So yeah, this is an exception. I guess someone could have said the process died here and never executed these two loads and stores. I don't think we probably would have accepted that answer too, but I don't think we did. I'll have to check that this year. Don't make sure exam doesn't have that bug. All right. Any other questions about these? This is pretty straightforward question. Let me look and see if there's anything else. What's that?
Before you leave that, I have a question.
Yeah.
So when we added in the write permissions for the store in number 2, if we had accessed page 98 again, would we keep the write permission?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, once
Carries through.
you added the write permission to the TLB, that's what the TLB knows, right? I mean, in general, you don't remove permissions from the TLB until there's a context switch or something. I mean, I could, or the page gets moved out to disk or something like that. We'll talk about that next. That's a good question, man. I'm glad we're going over this. I'm finding so many bugs. I've used these examples for years, and no one has noticed this. Despite the fact that it looks like it would be hard to get more entries into the TLB, this TLB, it could hold more. Right? I mean, maybe I should state that. Yeah.
I understand why in the first load one we store that at 12,378, but can you explain how we store that for the fourth load one?
The fourth load one, right?
For load 143.
Sorry. Actually, so we don't in load 1. Load 1 goes to 120,378. Yeah. So load 1 is 2378, lop off the 2, replace it with 120. This one is 143, lop off the nothing, replace it with 12. Right? Yeah. Suspiciously similar answers. Yeah. Gabriel.
Would there be a difference between, say, number 3, where you're trying to load from something that there isn't an entry for, and trying to write to something that you only have read?
I mean, it would generate a different kind of exception for the kernel to handle, but in both cases, that instruction cannot complete. I can't let that instruction complete. In the first case, I could, but I'm not allowed to. In the second case, how would I even, right? Yeah, James.
This is a separate question. I saw somewhere it said, if we wait to do something, we might never have to do it, but I don't remember going over that in class. What's that about?
Yeah, that's, so there is, it might have been on one of the exams. It might have been, can we have one conversation in here, guys? Thanks. It might have been on one of the exams. It might have been on a midterm. There is a procrastination might be a good thing. We have not covered that yet, so ergo, it will not be on the midterm. Yeah, was there a question over here?
Actually, it was related to fork and exit.
Okay.
So the question was, we copy a lot of address. You copy the address.
Right, yeah. I don't think, was that on a midterm? Really? Oh wow, I thought I got through more this year, but yeah, we didn't cover that yet, and we may get to it later. Right? That may be in like the next lecture, but we haven't got there yet, so it won't be on the exam. Are there questions? Go through some of the short answers. Yeah.
Why? What I think that guy is in TLB, which is the
So there are cases in which the kernel will load things into the TLB read-only so that it will see the next write, right? If I loaded it read-write, let's say there was a load, right, from that address, and I load it read-write. What happens is I don't see if there's a store or not, right? So I don't know if the process has modified the page or not. If I load it read-only, then the next time there's a store, it generates another exception, and now I know the page has been modified, right? The purpose is to detect modifications of the page. This is also something I think we'll go over in more detail.
But that will only happen the first time it writes.
Right, yeah. But there are some pages that are almost never or very rarely written to. So that works in certain cases, yeah.
So say somebody went in there with a write.
Uh-huh.
Then in the TLB, would it be permissions just show write?
No, because and then you don't care about seeing reads, right? But remember, the writes are different because they modify the page contents, right? Once a process has written to a page, it's possible that it's altered the page in a way that the kernel might have to do something about later. Reads, I don't care, right? So no, I would never mark it write only. That wouldn't, because I don't care about seeing reads, right? Because reads don't change that's the fundamental difference, right? Reads don't change the content of the page. Is there a question back there? Let's look at some of the other ones. Maybe was this a good exam? I don't know. Let's see here. Let's look at it's always the long answer questions for me that really, these are why is this here? Go away. Oh, here we go. Great, this is a good one. I think we talked about this in class this year, unfortunately, so it's good it's not on the exam again. These are boring. These aren't good. Sorry. The ones this year are better, I promise. Okay. Was that, let's see. Which one is this? Oh, we already did that one. What about the alternate one from last year? I want to go through another long answer. Let me find one. Oh, yeah, this is a good one. I don't know. All right, here's another one. All right, let's do some of these too for fun. All right, what's the difference between time and spatial multiplexing? Yeah. I thought I was done with that. Okay, yeah.
When it says like the address is the same, like 98 within both the TLB and the
Uh-huh.
how do you know which one you're gonna look at?
So remember, when do I consult the page table? When the TLB doesn't know what to do, right? So that the TLB always wins, right? Because the problem is, for example, if for some reason, and this would not be a good thing, right? But this is something that many of you will probably implement for assignment 3 without wanting to. You will have a page table that says X and a TLB that thinks something else, right? The problem is that I don't have any way of knowing what the TLB thinks in that case, right? Because I don't see those address translations, right? So if I want address A to point to B, but I've already loaded a translation between A and C into the TLB, I need to fix that, right? Because otherwise, the TLB will just keep happily translating those addresses without telling me anything about it, right? So the only time the page table is consulted is when the TLB doesn't know what to do, right? And so what that means is if I made some modification to the TLB, to the page table, let's say I took a page out of the process's address space for some reason, right? I no longer has permission to map this address. I need to make sure that if that address is in the TLB, it gets updated at the same time. Does that make sense? Yeah. Sonny.
After you consult the page table, does the address get stored in the TLB?
Yes.
And then, okay, for the exam, do we have to keep track of what's getting put into the TLB?
I think that question asked that. But I think the question asks, what's the result of this operation? So as long as you tell us within, you actually don't have to walk us through the entire example. If you just said, the physical byte 120,378 is read from, that's fine.
But then what happens to TLB?
Oh, man, these corner cases. I'll fix that. Yeah, the TLB won't get full. There's only 5 addresses up there, man. Yeah, like a 3-entry TLB or something. I don't want to use your machine. This is gonna be dog slow. What's that?
Just have to know how it works.
Just have to know how it works. Yeah, yeah. Don't and I promise. This is awesome. This is like every year people come up with different stuff. No one has ever asked about the TLB being full before, but it's a great. I mean, it's a valid question. I should have handled it. All right, who can tell me the difference between spatial and temporal multiplexing? No, you know too much. Yeah.
Temporal multiplexing is where it's basically time sharing. So you have chunks of time split into multiple processes.
Sure.
Each one gets a different time to process. And spatial multiplexing is the registers are used by various processes, but they all get the same registers to use at different times.
Oh, you were so close. At the very end, things. No. Okay, so temporal multiplexing is dividing something up in time, right? I have a cake, right? And I say, okay, this side of the room gets 5 minutes to eat the cake, right? Then the other side of the room gets 5 minutes to eat the cake, right? Spatial multiplexing. I take the cake, I cut it in half. I give each half to each side of the room, right? And that's actually not a great example, but with I mean, it's a funny example, but with temporal multiplexing, I have one resource that I really can't share, right? So the way I share it is I give it to you, I let you use it for a while, I take it away, I clean it up, I give it to someone else, right? With spatial multiplexing, I need a resource that can be used at the same time. So memory, and again, the question asks you to go and actually apply this concept. Registers are not in use by multiple processes at the same time, right? Memory can be, right? I can hand one page to one process, another page to another process. I've got enough memory that it can actually be split up. And on a multi-core machine, I can actually have multiple processes using the same memory chip at the same time, right? With one processor, not everyone. There was no real simultaneous use, but there was still this notion that one guy ran, and he got to use these pages, and he stopped. Another guy ran, got to use these other pages, and he stopped, right? So to some degree, there was interleaving of the memory usage, right? But on a multi-core machine, which every machine is now, I really can't have simultaneous use of the same resource, right? With cores, I don't have that. All right? This makes sense? Let's pick another one. Okay, we did something like that already. Here we go. This is a good one. Little synchronization question here. Okay, so you can read it. Your boss wants you to use synchronization primitives to implement something so that when 2 threads are running and one of them becomes discouraged, I mean, the setup was kind of stupid, the other thread will be forced to wait for that thread to meet at a fixed spot in the code, and then the 2 threads will be able to continue executing at that point. Can somebody implement this using 2 semaphores? Synchronization primitive has a name, but it can be implemented using 2 semaphores. Conceptually, does this make sense to you guys? I want one thread. I want to be able to establish a point at a function where a thread has to stop and wait until another thread passes another point at another function, and then both threads can now continue. How do I do this? Yeah?
It's just a well-named problem.
Oh, it's kind of like this. Went in the right direction. Yeah, Gabriel.
If you have, so each thread calls key on one semaphore and key on the other semaphore?
Right. Yes, this is sometimes known as a barrier, I think. So I have 2 semaphores. I initialize the count on both semaphores to be 0, I think. Yes? And so I have thread 1, P's semaphore 1, and then V's semaphore 2. thread 2 P semaphore 2, and then V semaphore 1. Let me get the solutions out. This will be easier to show you guys.
That'll deadlock.
No, it will not.
Did you call both of them to P before they V? Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I need to do the V first. Yeah, fine. One of them has to V first, the other one P's first, I think. Let's see here. Which one was this? Oh man, I'm in trouble now. Nope. Which exam was that on? I can't even remember. What was that? 5? Oh, sorry. Alternate 2003. There we go. Oh, 7. Gotcha. All right, here we go. Should do this first. All right, we're almost done. Let's just look at this one. Here we go. So this is the correct answer. And Doug was right. I have to P1 first and V the other one first. And I actually have to do them in that order, right? So what happens, so essentially what happens if thread 1 gets to this code first? What's supposed to happen? What was the design requirement? If thread 1 hits this code block first, what is it supposed to do? Wait until what? Until thread 2 gets there. What happens if thread 2 gets to this first? What's it supposed to do? Wait until what? Thread 1 gets there, right? So if thread 1 gets here first, what will happen? The semaphores are both 0, so what will happen? It'll wait where? It'll P semaphore 1, and this will block, because semaphore 1 is initialized to 0, and I can't decrement the count below 0. At some point, this dawdling thread 2 shows up. It hits semaphore 1. As soon as it V's semaphore 1, what happens to thread 1? It V's semaphore 2, which allows thread 2 to P semaphore 2, right? So that's what happens if thread 1 gets there first. If thread 2 gets here first, same thing. It will V. This will succeed, right? Because V never fails, right? But it will P semaphore 2, which is 0, and it'll wait, right? Then along comes thread 1. It'll P semaphore 1, which it can do because thread 2 has already V'd it. And then it will V semaphore 2, which will free thread 2, right? A little bit of cleverness with semaphores. Yeah, Natasha.
Do you have to explain the little chunk at the bottom, or do you just straight code?
Let's see here. I think we would have just been satisfied with the implementation. I mean, the solutions, if you wrote what's in the solutions, you would get full credit, right? But the solutions are also intended to be somewhat explanatory, right? Like we wrote this solution this way to try to explain what the answer was so that people could learn something from the exam. All right, I will see you guys on Wednesday. Good luck.